HIPAA issues, but do you guys have, the union movement, the public union movement, have a sense of how many have been granted and which agencies? Because I'm hearing wide-ranging results. Some places, if you were Catholic and concerned about the makeup of the vaccine, you got it. I mean, is it a patchwork? Do you get any sense from your colleagues?
I'm really dealing with rumors. I have heard what the numbers that you have heard, and that is an unfortunate reality of the situation. The original accommodation gets accepted or denied by the department, whichever department it is, either PD, FD, sanitation, teachers, and then if you are denied, you then move on to the city, who could then deny everybody. But you bring up a good point. The initial acceptance could come from an individual agency, and what's acceptable in one agency ends up being unacceptable in another. So there's a huge disparity among these, but again, we're only dealing with rumor. So they really should release the information. They should have basically standards for all groups that the departments follow, which hasn't been done. If you are having, as you say, certain people that are Catholics getting an acceptable RA and other departments not having that. So there is definitely a disparity that will be brought up in the future, but again, we're currently fighting the lawsuits we have in front of us. But we wish that there were standards, from the get-go.
The 12 does not include folks who can retire. Those they can't retire.
No, there are two people that can, 2 or 3 that can retire. They will be terminated if they don't retire. But their pension, if you have over 20 years, your pension is secured. But a lot of financial decisions will be made for them without their input. If you have less than 20 years, you will be terminated.
And just to make sure I understand, you are still encouraging members to get vaccinated by the deadline? Is that what you're
Well, we don't want to see any of our members get fired. In the end, this is a decision they will have to make for themselves. Everyone has to make an isolated decision, and we can only encourage them, not to lose their jobs. I feel some people will regret it in the end, which is another reason why I wish they would keep the door open. There is no reason to permanently and definitively fire someone today, where we do have policies in place where members can take a 1-year leave of absence. I have asked the commissioner to allow members that are facing termination to take a 1-year leave of absence, and he has denied that request.
And the leave of absence would have been paid leave?
Unpaid. Unpaid, it would cost New York City nothing to allow people to take a 1-year leave of absence, and if within that year they choose to come back, they could do that. Now for us, for a New York City firefighter and many other jobs, say police officer, sanitation, if you're fired from this job, that's the end. There is no coming back. You're usually going to be too old if you change your mind to take another test and come back. But for other jobs, say if you're a teacher, if you get fired as a teacher, it's my belief that if you still have your certificate, a year or 2 down the road, if you get vaccinated, you can go to another school and get a job. If you're vaccinated. They're not going to hold, we don't believe they're going to hold this against people for the rest of their lives. They're just saying the job you have now, you can no longer have. But there is no reason why New York City cannot leave the door open for people that have chosen not to get this at this time. It'll cost them nothing to leave the door open.
And the firefighters who are not vaccinated, just make sure I understand, they've been on unpaid status.
Some have been on unpaid leave. If they fail to get their reasonable accommodation in within the proper amount of time, and again, I brought this up multiple times, the deadline for the reasonable accommodation was 1 hour after we had our one negotiation session with the OLR. And it really was not enough time, and a lot of my members were penalized because they were unable to get the RAs in on time. And you have to also take into account that our job, you could do a 24-hour shift and not be back at the firehouse for 3 or 4 days, where most other jobs, they're doing 5 days a week, and they're getting much more information from their department. I feel our department could have done a better job reaching out to these people and making sure they were all informed and that they all got their RAs in. Now, I feel that the nature of our work situation had led to a high number of RAs not being filed in time, which led to hundreds of our members unnecessarily being placed on leave without pay. And they've been on leave without pay going on over 3 months now. If you look around, we are the #1 job that had most members out on leave without pay. And it was unnecessary. They should have accepted their RAs late, and they didn't do it. And by the vaccine mandate's own deadline, all of these accommodations should have been done by November 25th. And the city dragged its feet in doing the paperwork. They were overwhelmed by the number of people that filled out these RAs, and they're still in the process of going through tens of thousands of them. And these people that got them in late have been out of work for months.
Do you know how many of the 500 are on leave without pay?
Approximately 70 or 80 at this point.
Andy, can you, this federal level, when the Biden administration and Secretary Walsh came up with what they thought was a private sector plan for all private sector employees, they had a vaccine or test. And
Yes.
I know you guys, the International Association of Firefighters has Marty Walsh's phone number.
Yes.
You guys endorsed, were the first union to endorse President Biden. Any thought of appealing to them? Because this is going to set a precedent throughout the rest of the country.
We had appealed to them from the very beginning. We had conversations with Marty Walsh and the Biden administration, and their plan was to move ahead with this. They were on the impression that the OSHA regulation of vaccine or test might have worked in our favor, but in the end, the city chose to ignore it and move on with the, according to them, the higher standard of vaccination only.
How many medical exemptions were approved for the firefighters?
I want to say 11?
11.
11.
Out of 500, or that includes?
Well, again, there's still 500 that are being gone through. There are 11. There are some of the medical accommodations were approved on a temporary basis based on the fact that they did get coronavirus at one point in time and they had to get the monoclonal antibodies. So it's a temporary 90-day reprieve. And those members had to sign a stipulation that if they did not get vaccinated at the end of 90 days, they would be terminated. Even though after 90 days, they're most likely not going to have antibodies.
How many have been rejected?
How many RAs? For us, over a couple of thousand.
So a couple thousand rejected, 500 are pending, about 12 members are facing termination
Right.
today. Any of those 12 new hires, or they're all folks who've been?
Nobody within the last 4 or 5 years. I believe there might be one with less than 5 years. Is it 3 year? Yeah,
For those who
3 years.
received the medical exemptions, what kind of exemptions were they for? What kind of health conditions did they have?
It would normally be an allergic reaction, a severe allergic reaction to any one of the components of the 3 vaccines. It would actually have to be a reaction to components of all 3 of the vaccines, because they would be told to take another one. And there are also people that were prone to blood clots from previous vaccinations.
Looking ahead, Andy, can you give us a sense of there's a lot of scholarship out there in medical literature about long-haul COVID. What are you guys seeing in your rank and file?
About long-haul COVID?
Yeah.
Honestly, the members are dealing with the short term of it, and the vast majority of my members have already had it. So, you know, whatever comes.
Somebody out disabled long-term?
Oh, who's disabled?
We have about 4 or 5
I'm
guys.
sorry, we have about 4 or 5 guys that are still suffering long-term effects, but I believe most of them were infected in the initial rounds.
It's
the
a
initial
concern
round.
moving forward with the pension board and et cetera. We have several members that have been disabled. We have one member that's already been out. Right now, if you get hurt, if you get COVID at work, they consider it line of duty. If you die, we've had 2 members die in line of duty with COVID, but right now it's not considered disabling. We had to vote one member off at a disputed vote. The city disputed it, as did the department, that it was not job-related.
So let me get this straight, just simple for me. So if you die, that's a line of duty death.
Job-related,
But
correct.
if you contracted and have the misfortune of continuing to live, it's nothing.
Correct.
I wouldn't call it a misfortune.
Yeah.
But again, it
yes,
is
you got
important to
that
note. It is important to note that of the 2 members that we did lose to COVID, one of them passed, I believe, before the vaccine was even would have been effective for him. He passed in January, and the member we lost last month, from what I understand, was double vaccinated.
And the 12 of your members, superior officers, are not included in the figures?
Not included in that number. I believe they're probably included in that 500 still outstanding reasonable accommodations. And what I should note, what I probably didn't clarify, was of the couple of thousand RAs that they have gone through, the vast majority of those are members that complied and got the shot, and they removed their reasonable accommodation request.
Do you know how many of that 1,000 are not folks who've gotten the shot, who are the other category?
Well, there's still 500 that haven't got the shot. But I'm saying if you remove your reasonable accommodation, you're getting fired tomorrow, which no one did. The ones who received the shot removed their accommodation, and that, you know, clerically was cleared. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
So I just wanted, the termination takes place when? Like, when are you done?
We believe 5 o'clock, but I'm going to be honest with you, the department has been very relaxed with a lot of the information coming to us. Again, they may not even know from the city what the actual deadline is. We believe.
They're tallying over the weekend, that's why. Okay.
again,
They haven't put one, they haven't given.
right, there's a lot of semantics that they,
Yeah, they kept it vague.
They kept it vague to.
right.
So it could be midnight.
Exactly. You can get
Right.
paid from them, they tell the department. that
Well,
they tell us.
I'd rather tell our members 5 o'clock, so they're not driving around 11:30 tonight looking for a CVS that's open. You know, we prefer them to take care of this now.
Thank you, gentlemen.
One more?
Should I do sexy? I mean, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, I like the logos right over there. So like, we should turn my way.
Hello. Good to see you again. Huh? How's the lighting? It's better? A little bit better? What do we need? Do we need to get rid of these? Brighten it up or get rid of them?
Get rid of them. Yeah.
Get rid of those.
Yeah. Those.
And get light coming this way.
Yeah.
Is you? Two LED lights.
Yeah.
We'll get there.